Let's welcome in Blaine Fowler. Blaine, it's been a few minutes. Welcome back to BYUSN, man.
Well, summertime, you know, but
when the living's easy.
It is exactly right. But it's time. It's time to start getting ready.
I'm playing a lot of pickup with Gavin Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, he tells
he's
me.
a good player.
No, and Gavin says, you know who's sneaky good? Jerem.
Sneaky.
Like he says he's sneaky good. I'm like,
Chucker,
what is the definition of sneaky good? And he's like,
look like I'd be good.
No, he's like, if you were going to pick out a lineup, you go, I don't know. I don't know about that guy.
Fair.
He just looks too nice. And then he says, but he's just a stone cold killer on the floor. He's like, Jerem's sneaky good.
Yeah, it's prison rules on the court, right?
He was bragging. Yep, I'm not kidding. He was.
I love playing with Gavin. He's great. He's great. And now he's a grad assistant.
Yeah, those guys are busy in football camps. They're doing high school camp this week.
Nice.
Then they have a coaching retreat to start getting ready for the season. So it's on for them. It's a few weeks of camps, but they've got a big prep weekend this weekend where the whole staff goes away and starts prepping for what they're going to do this fall. It's on for them, and it's on for us to start getting ready for it.
We were talking a lot about Zach Wilson for obvious reasons. Are expectations too high for Zach Wilson right now? Are we expecting too much of a guy that started 7 games last year and is coming off shoulder surgery?
Well, Jeremy just brought up a good point. Tanner Mangum played the gauntlet at the beginning of the season last year, and then Zach played against competition. There was some good competition in there, but this will be different. These will be different kinds of defenses that he's going to face. I feel like BYU managed him really well by doing that. And I think he's now prepared to be able to play against defenses where the coverage is going to be tighter, the windows are going to be smaller. And one thing he has is tremendous confidence and quick decision-making, which is the difference between being a good player and being a great player at that position in college football. And so I think he'll have success. But to me, success for him is how does the team do? And my expectations are if they get to 8 wins with this schedule, then they've taken a big step forward, right? I don't know if that's the feeling of the general fan base out there. Because, like, can we win 10 games because we got Zach back this year?
Probably not.
So I don't think I'm putting a lot of pressure on him. I think I have realistic expectations. If he plays well and they have a top 15 defense, which I believe they can this year, then they can go win 8 games. And 8 games is really good with this schedule. If they win more than that, then that's a big surprise to me, and they've overachieved. So I think he can live up to my expectations. I expect him to still make some mistakes. But you want to know what? Give him a do-over on a couple of those close losses, and he's going to make better decisions than he made last year. Everything he did, every play he played in last year was a learning experience, and I think he's better for it, and he's a real quick study. You talk to Aaron Roderick and those guys in that quarterback room, and they say, you coach him up once, and he's got it. And so that's a good sign, but he's still young. He's still young.
And he had the second half of his freshman season. Now he goes into his sophomore year. And certainly the concern that Jason brought up is valid, right? Coming off of shoulder surgery, that's always a little scary, right? And he said it was minor surgery. Is there any minor surgery, or is it all major, right? And then you're playing 4 Power 5s to start. But the way that he played against Utah and BYU, it seemed that BYU pulled off the pedal, and that's been acknowledged as much, was, if BYU didn't pull off the pedal and didn't have a couple key injuries, they probably win that game, and then the rhetoric's different.
Yeah, and there's something that makes a big difference when you have him on film to teach in the offseason to talk about. It's different when I'm a freshman, I'm watching Jim McMahon on film. Well, I'm learning from that, but I don't know that I could ever do the things that Jim McMahon was doing. So they're saying, hey, now watch Jim here. See what he did here. Now you don't want to do this. This is what you want to do. Well, that's really easy to say, right? Because I don't do what Jim McMahon does. Well, now with Zach in the offseason, they can say, look what you did right here. And you need to go through a different progression here. You need to get the ball out quicker. He learns by watching himself now. You can grow a lot more by watching yourself on film. They have a better understanding now as a coaching staff too. What are his strengths? What is he good at, and what does he struggle with? Now you can fashion the play calling to take advantage of his strengths. So there's 2 benefits to having him play, and that is his ability to learn quicker and make leaps at a much faster pace in terms of his progression, and their ability to tailor the offense exactly for him with all those games on film now.
How did Jim receive that criticism in the room?
Sometimes, like one time, we were in a meeting and we were playing somebody. I'm not going to say who they were because I don't want to degrade an opponent ever. But
so it was New Mexico.
5 minutes into film and the light came on in the room, and Jim said, seriously, do we have to sit in here and watch this crap? And coaches are like, and he goes, if they run this, we'll throw 7 touchdowns. I mean, this is a waste of time.
Please tell me it was Utah.
And the coaches, no, it wasn't Utah. And the coaches go, everybody else good? Jim, you good? We were good. End of meeting.
When you're Jim McMahon, you
Only
can do
Jim McMahon, after you have 76 NCAA records, can you do that as a senior.
Okay, describe to me who's in that room again, because it's like an all-time group. So you, Jim, Steve, your freshman year.
Yeah, Steve Young, Jim McMahon, me,
81.
Jim Kimball, Eric Krasmarzik, Robbie Bosco. And then the coaches in that room are Norm Chow, Ted Tollner,
Was Mike Holmgren in there?
No, Mike came the next year.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So Jim graduates, but in 82.
Yeah. You would be amazed by the time Jim was a senior, like Ted and Norm and those guys would be like, well, at a timeout, critical time of the game, Jim would come over and say, hey, we need to run this. And they go, okay. Hey, that's if he's good with it, then let's run that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you leaving out the expletive that was probably included.
Yeah,
in
it was.
that. Yeah.
But it was really fun to be in the room with him. But there's only so much you can learn about yourself from watching Jim McMahon do it, because he's just a freak in terms of his skill set, his ability to throw, his arm strength, his mobility, all of that. I've said that Zach reminds me just the way he plays. And I'm not saying he has the same skill set as Jim McMahon, and nobody tweet out that I'm crazy comparing him to Jim McMahon. Jim's one of the greatest, I think, the best college quarterback that's ever played. But when I watch their skill set, quick decision-making as a young guy, that quick release, the ability to get the ball out, the ability to get velocity on it. Even when he had a bad shoulder last year, velocity when he's on the run. His mobility in his sense on the field, they remind me a lot of the way Jim moved as a young quarterback. And so I'm saying he reminds me of some of the skill set. Now, he's got a long ways to go, and Jim worked like a crazy man and took the game seriously and was brilliant in terms of football sense. But I think that needs to be where Zach Wilson sets his target. That's who he should try to be like. If he can be like Jim McMahon, man, BYU's in great shape for the next couple of years.
I am really excited to see the next step for this BYU offense. And certainly, Zach Wilson is the guy that is the guy driving the car. It's going to be based off of what he does to really start things off. Where do you feel like this team is prepared to take its biggest step offensively this year versus last year?
It completely changed a few weeks ago or a month or so ago because I felt like the biggest step was going to be on the offensive line, which I still think is going to be a huge step because now all those young guys that have been playing for a couple of years, they're men now in there with experience. BYU is going to be an elite offensive line. We don't use that word lightly on this show.
Yeah, be careful.
And there's some guys that haven't played that are phenomenal talents, like LeChance, who looks like a young John Tate. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as
Jason the other day.
Saw him at the gym yesterday.
He's like if you took a picture all by himself, you would think he's a strong safety the way he's built. But he's like 6'7" and 310 pounds, right? So, I mean, Herring, like guys that haven't played a bunch up there, plus the guys that have played, Brady Christensen and Empey, they're loaded for the first time in a long time up front. Not just good with the starters, but they are deep, they're physical, they're nasty. They're going to be really good up front this year. And that's when BYU's good. So if you got a sophomore quarterback, that's what you want up front. But where we took a light year step forward just recently was with these recent signees, grad transfer signees at running back. I was very concerned about the depth at running back, and that concern has been alleviated for me. And so I think that run game is going to take a big, big step forward, especially in the red zone, or we call the blue zone.
The blue zone, yes.
You get teams that can't run it down there unless you're unbelievable with a spread offense, don't score touchdowns. They settle for field goals. Teams that can run it, score touchdowns. I think BYU will be a team that can run it when they get in the red zone this year. They'll knock people off the ball and have running backs who will get low pad level and finish runs and get first downs and score.
We'll know right away because Utah is the first opponent.
And Utah's D-line, crazy.
Hit it.
Countdown to the Utes.
79. Yeah, that was good, Blaine.
Yeah,
Very nice.
I don't have an IFB, so I had to
Yeah, that was not bad for not hearing it.
with a half a second delay.
That was good. 79 days. Dustin Reichert, a notable 79. He caught speaking of Christensen, a tackle-eligible touchdown against Louisville in the 2001 Liberty Bowl. So, okay, thanks a lot, Blaine. Appreciate it, man.
Good to be with you guys.
Looking tan, more tan than everybody else there.
We've got to show that picture, don't we?
We do? Let's do it. You brought in a picture.
You brought in a picture. We teased it, so we've got to show this.
People ask me all the time, who's the most talented basketball? Let's see if we can. There we go. No. Somebody dropped this off for me to drop off to you to see
Yeah,
if we want to have it in
sweet.
the offices or in the studio. But Fred Roberts, Greg Kite, Danny Ainge, Devin Durant, all together. Devin Durant played with this group before he left on his mission. He played the last season he played before his mission was the 1980 season. So played all four of these guys, big time. Three of the guys, long NBA careers. Devin with a limited NBA career, but 4 NBA bona fide guys on the same team. We haven't had that since.
Yeah,
that is
that's incredible.
Awesome picture. So much great hair in that.
Yeah.
Speaking of great hair, thank you, Blaine. Appreciate it.